Welcome to The Next Interview Show. Every week, Dolan sits down with industry game changers, visionary founders, and powerhouse executives to uncover the raw truth behind what it really takes to lead. On this week's show,
to answer your actual question, the way we make this stick and we develop these habits is we absolutely have to update the self schema. And we do this really intentionally to where you don't feel like you're constantly fighting yourself. And so this is, stepping into this new identity on, somebody listening to this, they probably do identify as a leader. They do identify clearly if they're listening to this show, they maybe identify as a business owner or an entrepreneur. We need to start to identify as like, what is the healthy version of that? Like, are you the fit leader? Are you the healthy leader? And we need to actually build that self schema up. Whereas right now, somebody probably has a bit of an identity of they're the leader that's self-sacrificial. They'll burn themselves out for the team, and they're wearing that hat as a crown. We need to actually now step into an identity of, hey, I'm the fit leader.
This episode is sponsored by Lead with Confidence. Lead with Confidence empowers leaders and businesses alike with a 4-pillar approach to creating sustainable success in your organization. Visit the podcast website for more information. Now, on to our episode with today's guest.
Welcome to the Next Interview Show podcast. As the announcer mentioned, as we were coming through the door, I'm Dolan White. I am the host, and I'm blessed. I get to have amazing guests on the podcast and have wonderful conversations. And today I'm expecting that specifically. Matter of fact, I'm expecting that multiplied today. My guest today is Luke DePron. And first thing is, just I want to start with some gratitude. There's a 1,000 other things you could be doing with the next 30, 45 minutes. And you're going to hang here with me and we're going to have a conversation. And because we're both Southern California guys, we can actually slip into calling each other dude periodically and get away with it. So that's kind of who we are. So welcome, Luke. Thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Love hopping on and having conversations like these.
Cool. It's going to be fun. So for the guests that, the folks listening to the podcast who haven't met you yet, I'd like to usually take the first 2 or 3 minutes or however long we go and just talk about a little bit about your journey. I would, consider you, there's a handful of people that I've met that I've looked at that I would consider trusted fitness-minded experts. And the little bit that I've had a chance to kind of look into who you are, I put you into that category till you prove me wrong. You're in that category in my mind. But I'd love to talk a little bit about your journey and kind of your life and what you do. And then let's get into talking about leadership a little bit if we can.
Yeah. So first off, that's like the greatest compliment I can get in a industry that is just full of absolute charlatans and nonsense.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
So that talk about a compliment right there. Yeah. So again, my name's Luke. I run a online fitness coaching company called Fitman Project. I basically help entrepreneurs, business owners, busy working guys turn back the clock by improving their health, their fitness, usually losing some weight. Got into this industry originally as a personal trainer. So I was in college going to school for business in an accounting class, realized I absolutely hate this and thought, what am I doing in here? And changed majors to a kinesiology department, not exactly sure what I was going to do, but knew I had found some intersection of interest around human movement, exercise, physiology, anatomy. Eventually exited that degree, worked as a personal trainer, spent time in a rehab facility where I got to do corrective exercise, sport performance type work, which really like cut my teeth in a different way before moving into the online coaching side, which really provides the arena to solve kind of the big problems that I'm after with people, which is the lifestyle stuff. We obviously have to address the nutrition, the fitness, but ultimately the lifestyle stuff. And that's kind of where I'm at now.
Oh, that's exciting. That's a journey. I know you mentioned also, so you're in San Diego and you migrated out this way from the Midwest, away from the snow and the all of that other stuff that happens out there. So Good to have you out here on the West Coast with us, dude.
Yeah, it's well, as we were talking, it's like I've been here, I think 15, maybe 17 years now, and
Yeah, good.
every time I have delusions of moving somewhere, I take a trip, I come back, and it's like San Diego's a tough place to live or to move, to leave. Excuse me, to leave. It's a great place to live. It's a tough place to leave.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. Every now and then I have that same thing of being just up the road from you, just a skosh. The same side. Every now and then I kind of look around and go, yeah, this is tough. This is hard to do.
72 and sunny all day.
I know. I wonder what my brother's doing today in the snow, but that's okay. We'll leave him there.
Yep.
So one of the things I want to kind of spend some time talking about, and we had a great kind of little bit of a pre-show conversation about some of these things, but I know that, in my later career, now that I, supposedly am retired doing all the things that I do, my wife reminds me every now and then, aren't you like retired? No, well, on the way to the airport to get on a plane to go talk to somebody. But one of the things that I think leaders, because leaders tend to forget, is we tend to talk a lot about the dynamics of being a leader for myself and being a leader for my team and all of the things that go into that. But we lose track of the importance of the pieces that comprise our life. Sure. We were talking a little bit earlier about, I love teaching executives, founders, CEOs, whatever, it doesn't matter what title they are, what role they've got. Kind of a law that I tell them is like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's life. Right. And where you put your priorities and your foundational habits in there generate your ability to go lead other people and kind of come back. And I think that's why I was fascinated with being able to spend some time with you today, because I think the things that you do with leaders not only help them be better physically, right, and mentally, but it also teaches them how to establish habits, create life-changing things that they can move on then and apply to other aspects, to leading people and doing stuff. So I'm kind of curious about, your relationship with leaders and where you find them. You mentioned an excuse earlier, something about time, I think.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe we start there just with, it's kind of like, hey, I got this so much shit going on. I got to go focus. That's a technical term. I got all this stuff going on that I don't have time for this.
Sure. Yeah. And this is where I think there's just a major disconnect on what's required to make progress in your health and fitness versus people's perspective of it. But before we even address that, I think you have to come to terms with just this understanding that your health, your fitness, it is a foundational piece of you and everything that you're looking to do. So without it, like we've all experienced it when we're sick and run down, how we don't perform well. So it really does start with a recognition that like your health, it's foundational. It shouldn't be up for discussion in this idea of work-life balance. Like it's not in that equation. It's not something that can be sacrificed. Mm-hmm. And once you come to terms with that and you recognize that it is a foundational piece of you as a human, it's a requirement, it's an asset, it's a responsibility to have it, then you can start kind of stepping into the tactical stuff. And that's where, again, recognizing that there is this misconception for most people of what it takes to be healthy and fit. And again, we kind of spoke about this. If you look on a lot of social media, YouTube, Instagram, where a lot of people are going to, I think, get exposure to health and fitness ideas, it's going to be presented in this way that is so incongruent with somebody who's trying to maybe build a team, grow a business, maybe raise a family. And it just seems like there's not a way for you to reconcile those two pieces together. And I kind of come in and tell people, don't worry, all that nonsense, like you don't have to do all of that. We can strip it down and make it way more simple, way more actionable. And you got to recognize a lot of what you're seeing online is people, chasing attention, right? So creating gimmicks and I'm struggling for the word, just chaos in the fitness industry to grab eyeballs, right? And once you recognize, again, healthy and fit should be the normal, all of a sudden it opens up this idea that maybe the things that you have to do don't have to be this crazy thing. They can just be basic things. And then it's about how do we integrate, how do we layer those in, how do we make them feel easier to do? So many people, they hop into I'm going to do a 14-day challenge. I'm going to go run a marathon. I'm going to do X. And they throw the challenge, they throw the hard thing out, where instead we need to flip that. We need to figure out how do we make it easier to do these foundational pieces of health and fitness. And so they actually fit in our lives and we don't have an excuse to quit them.
So when you're, I mean, that's a shift for people, right? Having run marathons before, I get it, right? And the first time I ran a marathon, I don't think I've ever told anybody this story before. It was
Laying on us.
we were with a couple that's friends. A buddy of mine's name is Doug, and Doug's about 6'50", and I'm 5'10". He's a really big guy. And we were in Palm Springs, and were consuming a couple of cold beverages and chilled professional beverages, I call them. And we were in the pool and kind of said, hey, you know what? Let's run a marathon. And I kind of went, yeah, let's run a marathon. And so we did, right? And ran a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them.
Nice.
And which was great. But then there was, the kind of like, there's the peak of that. And then you kind of go, yeah, that's enough. I've done it,
Yep.
And then
You check the box.
You go right back to where you were.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that happens a lot. It happens in leadership with executives, but a couple of things that you said I think are really, really important. I want to go back to, which is how do you turn this into something that's got some I'm going to paraphrase what you said, which incorporates ease and elegance. So how do I make this easy?
Yep.
So that it becomes a habit, becomes part of it becomes core to who you are. So it prompts me to the question, Luke, so how do you, this is new for some people because we are wired. I can only say that as a guy, right? As a guy, we get wired to like, I'm going to go do this.
See it all the time.
We're wired for that,
Yep.
right? How do you help people, leaders, and the folks that you work with across all industries, kind of develop that habit and really understand that, hey, look, it's not about the big move.
Yep.
It's about the smaller, consistent move. So
Yep.
how do you help people kind of recognize that shift?
So, most people who do come to me for support, I will say have kind of had I don't want to say like a code red alert moment, but like they have hit that point of frustration.
Gotcha.
It could be they saw themselves in a photo and they're like, oh gosh, like my weight's really gotten away from me. It could be they went to like chase their kid at the park and they're like, my heart fluttered, or I couldn't keep up, or I was exhausted. So there is a recognition of like things are not where they should be. Then, we do break things into these ideas of literally there's 3 categories of focus that we really hammer: build, fuel, and move. And we can kind of get into these, but to answer your actual question, the way we make this stick and we develop these habits is we absolutely have to update the self schema. And we do this really intentionally to where you don't feel like you're constantly fighting yourself. And so this is, stepping into this new identity on, somebody listening to this, they probably do identify as a leader. They do identify clearly if they're listening to this show, they maybe identify as a business owner, an entrepreneur. We need to start to identify as like, what is the healthy version of that? Like, are you the fit leader? Are you the healthy leader? And we need to actually build that self schema up. Whereas right now, somebody probably has a bit of an identity of they're the leader that's self-sacrificial. They'll burn themselves out for the team, and they're wearing that hat as a crown. We need to actually now step into an identity of, hey, I'm the fit leader. And then we back that identity up through guaranteed minimum standards that are built in that build, fuel, move framework. And we layer in hard lines. And these are these kind of containers that we're going to put for ourselves so that we can actually execute on what we said we were going to do, that minimum standard. So we get proof that we are that guy or gal that we said we are. And we start to reinforce that identity through action. And that's where we start to build confidence through competence, and not just journaling and like wishing and hoping for it. We actually like prove it to ourselves. It's like, hey, I said I was going to work out 2 times a week. I've proven that story true now. And I'm starting to shed that story of, hey, when things get busy in my business, I fall off and I don't work out at all. And it's like, well, you were trying to work out 7 days a week. So let's scale it down to 2. No matter how busy you are, you're going to be able to do these 2 workouts. And now we start to update that self schema as we are a guy who can stay healthy and fit, even in the chaos. And so it's really, that's like the crux of what we're doing.
Yeah, I have to say, I really like that, because I think one of the things that I teach, we talk about this kind of coming into the podcast, this is about you, not about me. But I think when we're coaching individuals in particularly, it's how we identify ourselves. And we tend to do that. That's funny, because a lot of times I'm working with individuals, and we'll talk about kind of what's your role in your organization. And they recognize, and they pigeonholed themselves. Their answer is, well, I'm the chief firefighter.
Yeah. Sure.
Right. And so and it's kind of like, really? So you spend your entire day looking for or starting fires.
That's funny.
That's what you're telling me. That's who you are. Isn't there something else that you want? And I hadn't actually thought about that from the perspective of fitness, that I am that fit founder. I am that,
Mm-hmm.
and then that personify, because, I had to smile a little bit when you said, yeah, because I've seen that picture of me on stage before where I kind of go, and the first thing is like, it's not the fact that I'm on stage and there's an audience and there's people and I may be talking about some blah, blah, blah topic. It's like, holy crap, I need to lose weight.
Yeah. I mean, we all see ourselves in the mirror daily, right? And so
Right.
those shifts are subtle, but then all of a sudden you get like an outward representation of that in a photo. It could be like going to a wedding and you see the photo, and it's like that's a big one for people. Yeah, it does. It can be kind of an eye opener. And this idea of these little minimum standards, it doesn't have to be these like crazy big things. It can be like little shifts. It could be, as the fit entrepreneur or the fit leader, it's like, well, think about how does that control what you bring in for the team, right?
Right.
For when you're going to order lunch, how does that impact when you show up to a networking event? Maybe you actually have one vodka soda and not 5 beers, or it's going to drive that behavior. And again, it can be these small little incremental adjustments, but it's so much easier when identity is driving that behavior.
So one of the things I think that comes into that, and I'm curious about how it works with your clients as you're coaching, individuals with this, is there's a level of, I'll call it personal accountability,
Yep.
which translates to quit lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Just, to deal with it, right?
Yep.
Which becomes personal. And when you can deal with that, then personal accountability can come into play. And I think that's a shift. How do you help your clients kind of make that shift? Because I think that's a universal concept, whether you're focused on fitness, on business, on your own know, like, trust of yourself. A lot of people fear who they are. They have fear of being a leader. And so there's, self-doubt is the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
How do you help people kind of move from that, deal with the truth, and then move into accountability?
So couple ways. Again, I mentioned this concept of guaranteed minimum standards. This is really when we look at like all of the things that we're going to layer in, which again could be like step count, could be things around alcohol, it could be our workouts, our nutrition, right? Like all of the like levers and pillars that we can insert and pull.
Sure.
We're going to install those around this concept of guaranteed minimum standards. And that minimum is the key word. I have an intake form where I ask every guy that ends up working with me, how many days can you realistically execute a 40-minute workout? I can't tell you how many guys say 7. And it's like, if that was true, we wouldn't be on this call having this challenge that we're dealing with. Right?
Yeah, that's great. I don't mean to chuckle, but it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, but it's really common. I get that answer.
Yeah. Wow.
And first, I explained that from a physiological stance, we don't need that much input to have optimal results anyway. So we would be overshooting it even if that was true. Gotcha. But instead, we swing it all the way down to what is the guaranteed absolute no bullshit will get done each week, meaning you have to plan for the fire. You have to plan for the kid being sick. Hey, is that 3 workouts? Ooh, well, with all of those things you mentioned, maybe it's 2. Okay. 2 guaranteed can get done. Yes. All right. Perfect. That is like, it's Sunday night. You didn't hit the standard. It's 11 o'clock. You're out on the deck doing your workout. Like you have to get that in. Now we could have a stretch goal. Maybe we try to get that 3rd, but there's no judgment around the stretch goal, only the standard. And so again, we build that confidence by reducing it down and making that win like almost guaranteed. Like we're going to set that up for success so we can reinforce that belief that like, holy cow, I can do this. Whereas before, like I always fell off, but like this I can actually do. So we make sure that standard is absolutely achievable. And again, and that's in different areas. So when if we audit their step count and it's like, hey, you're only taking 2,000 steps a day. Well, let's not jump to 15,000 steps every day. Like let's reduce that down. Let's make sure that you can actually hit that standard and build some confidence. Then from an auditing and an accountability standpoint, we do track everything. Meaning like everything, like I'm going to know your step count. Everything's logged through an app. You're going to have access to me. So I'm there with you, but I'm not dragging you through it. So it's on you to step up and do it, but there's some outside, accountability. And I call that the growth gap, which is really, I think, supportive to stepping into that like U 2.0.
I think that's really fascinating, Luke, because I think that's it's a leadership premise I talk about all the time. First of all, you can't do it alone. You can't. We're not. I believe there are some that might be able to.
Yeah, I say some can, and I watch a lot of people struggle doing it alone.
Yeah, you
Like,
could
go slow or go fast.
It's a small, there's the 2% out there that maybe can, but I think everything else. And to your point, with everything that gets wrapped around it, a couple of things that I really like, as a leader listening to the podcast, whatever platform you're on, there's a little round button with it says 30 in the second of it. It's got an arrow pointing backwards. Go backwards to a little bit of what Luke was just talking about, and listen to there are the. I think in life and in leadership, and in particular, since we're talking about health, there are those immovable things, the things that we aren't willing to give up. And so if it is Sunday night and you've made a commitment and you're going to do it, and it's 11 o'clock and it's not done yet, you get out on the deck and you drop and give me 20.
Yep. You get it done.
Or whatever it is that you've committed to, you get up and you go do that. And I think it's easy as adults to let that kind of slip by. I think we're kind of wired that way sometimes. When you're working with you kind of mentioned a little bit about the kind of the pieces that go into and I didn't write them down. I wrote down some other notes here I got for you here later, but kind of the pieces that come into it as people are thinking about their health, and how do you help them identify? So where am I starting? What habits am I looking to modify into? Other than there's intake forms, and they can only tell you so much, right?
Yeah.
But how do you kind of help them figure out, okay, this is where I've got to go?
So again, most guys who come to me, there tends to be some physique component to it. And again, typically there's a weight loss, but not always, right? Like I just had a guy sign up where his big key indicator of improvement is going to be his A1C levels. He's basically approaching, becoming a pre-diabetic, and that's what we're looking to obviously make some corrections. But as far as these foundational pillars that we're going to install pretty much for everybody is some level of strength training, because we want to develop obviously strength for life, meaning when you think about getting old, getting weak is what getting old is. Your inability to get up off of the chair, to get up off of the ground. These are being weak. So we need strength, obviously, in improving your muscle mass increases insulin sensitivity, makes partitioning nutrients better, blah, 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 blah. Of course, the resistance training will also be the physique component piece. So we're going to bring in we're going to integrate a strength training program. We are going to bring in some level of nutrition auditing and improvement. And then again, we're going to leverage what I call move. And we usually typically do it through step count. Now we try to incorporate this as easy as possible, or maybe in a layer of play versus I'm going to go start running. And it's like, cool. Do you like running? No, I hate running. And it's like, well, let's not do that. Oh, you like playing basketball with your 13-year-old son? Let's do more of that. And so typically we do start with the resistance training week 1. Yeah. There's just something really powerful about it for guys to step into the physicality of again, moving their body, realizing, wow, they actually do feel a bit deconditioned. Wow, a split squat does feel really hard. Or maybe, wow, I'm feeling pretty strong. And we dial that in, we get that kind of layered in, then we start to bring in the nutrition. All of this gets iterated on over the course of working together. And then again, step count gets layered in, and all of these pieces, we're only going to layer them in really as needed. So to give you an example, I recently have a guy who just wrapped up working together. He's down 30 pounds, and we were able to keep his step count out at about 4,500 steps. That's still a big range of improvement that we could layer in, but we don't need to pull that lever until his rate of fat loss slows. So it's let's save that leverage. Whereas there might be somebody else who it's all right, I'm going to go get my 15,000 steps. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to diet really hard. And they throw everything at the problem at once. They don't really leave themselves anywhere to adjust. So data will kind of dictate when we need to pull levers. And of course, it has to fit into your unique lifestyle and your ability to actually execute.
That's interesting. We'll come back some other time to the 4,500 steps. We'll come back to that. We'll get back to that point. So I kind of went, wait a minute. Hang on. Mine is 7,500. Anyway. Yeah. Hey, there you go. And which, that's my number every day. That's where I'm going.
Which is great.
Some days are great. Some days no. So one of the things that I do want to address, because I think what happens a lot of times psychologically to us, and is falling off the wagon.
Yep.
And we create, like, I've got an app on my phone that allows me to track streaks, right? I can see
Sure.
how many days I've kept blah, blah, blah habit that
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to develop. In the old days, the old adage of, 21 days creates a habit is a lie, right? We know it's not 21 days, right? It's
Yep.
a little longer than 21 days.
Isn't it like 68 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
multiply that times 3 and then throw in a
Sure.
couple of weeks for good credit.
Yep.
Well, I think what happens a lot of times is people will start and they'll start a streak and they'll get to like day 10, 12, and they'll kind of go, yeah. And then they'll fall off for 2 or 3 days and then just go, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm not coming back.
Yep.
How do you, and that's a mindset thing. So how do you, and as a coach, right? Because you can't do the work for them. You don't need to do the work for them, right? You got your own work to do. How do you help them kind of get back into the realization that, hey, look, a gap, a miss does not a habit break?
Correct. So, I would say once people are working with me, those obviously happen far fewer because now there isn't a level of external accountability that helps them avoid that. Whereas previously, that would be a conversation that they would describe happened a lot, right? Like, I get on these kicks and I do good. Typically what I see happening in those situations when we dive into when they fall off, show me a guy or a gal who's constantly falling off, and I will show you somebody who's taking a very, very ridiculous approach to get there. Meaning your diet is so strict and aggressive, I cannot blame you for falling off. Your workout routine is so, again, time consuming, I can't blame you for falling off.
Right.
So I think by layering in something that is actually just more tangible, it removes the actual block. And then, of course, if it does happen, it's just, having a conversation, stepping back and recognizing like, hey, when we started working together, we had a very clear conversation around, we are making this the last time that you ever have to address this. And this is a lifetime commitment. And so the reality is, in the next year, if you miss 3 days, like, it's really nothing. And this is probably something that kind of shocks people. And I think, or surprises them, that like someone like myself, it's like, I've missed workouts. I've, quote, cheated on my diet. I eat unhealthy, quote, things. The reality is I have an understanding at a physiological level of that's impact, meaning like it didn't do anything. I'm able to move through that. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It does. And I love the perspective, look, around the fact that the fact that if this is a lifelong pursuit, missing a day and we're going to miss a day. I know as leaders, I come, there's times I'll come in and I'll get into my office and kind of go, yeah, I'm just not feeling it.
Sure.
This isn't my day.
Yeah. Wasn't your best. Are you going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah. I'll be here tomorrow and
there you go. You already
I'll
won
put my pants on or shorts on as it may be since I'm in California and show up appropriately attired to do what I do. Thank goodness for Anchorman. He set the whole state for us. We just got to worry about this. So as you're kind of one of the things that I like about the approach, and I see this sometimes with executives and with leaders where they tend to overcompensate. We talk about things that are happening in their organization, and they'll throw the needle way over into the green, and I can see the team around them go, whoa, what are we doing? What's happening? We're doing what? Because then we're now way over. We've pegged that needle way over. When people are kind of in this mode and they're kind of developing that habits, I think one of the things that happens around them, and it's great that they have an accountability partner through your program, kind of with you, and you're watching, and there's things that you're measuring, but there's also the other people in our lives. There's a spouse or kids or or right, and there's gravity around those. Mm-hmm. If you're going one way and they're kind of going that way, it's hard to keep that focus, and that happens, I think, in fitness, and happens in business, happens in life in general.
Sure.
How do you help that individual who's got that gravity kind of pulling this way? It's like, I know you got to work out, but we really need to go, blah 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 blah.
Sure. So obviously there's the tactical, like, hey, again, let's reduce barrier to entry. So we keep a adjustable set of dumbbells in the office so you can knock out a 15-minute workout, hit the standard, like all of that stuff. But
Sure.
The probably deeper side of that, particularly when I'm working with men, I kind of do poke the bear a little bit and try to leverage the ego maybe a touch and say, like, this is a part of leadership, is like showing up as your best physical self. Like, this matters. Acting as a lighthouse, not a tugboat, right? Like, you're not going to drag your spouse to the gym, but you can show up and lead by example. And I recently had a client who just transitioned out to work on his own, and he's a great testament to kind of what I'm talking about here, because he reached out a year ago, like it was like over a year ago. He was like, good to go. I sent him the contract. He's about to sign up and ghosts me. And a year later, reaches out and says, all right, I'm sick of my shit. And he signs up and, we're on our onboarding call, and he goes, well, my wife is due any day now. I go, oh, well, what, any day now? Like, when? He's like, could be tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, great. So he already has 2 young kids under, I think, 4. And now he's about to have a baby, and he's jumping into this coaching program where he's going to, work on himself. And I think this is the major, major distinction. So many people think they're going to set aside their lives to then go work on their health and fitness. And it's like, that's BS. You have to figure out how to do it within the unique chaos that you have, whether that's, again, running your business, raising a family. These things have to fit and support that. And, which with him, it was a really cool experience, because his wife, like, he sent me a message, in the app, and he was like, his wife told him this was the best recovery that she's ever had in a pregnancy, because he was taking ownership of the food. So it's like, that's leadership, right? Like, that's you stepping up and doing what's best for yourself, for your family, and impacting people beyond yourself. So this isn't this idea of, okay, hey, I'm going to go in, I go to the basement, I eat my meals there. I'm going to disconnect from the family, from my work, while I work on myself. No. This has to integrate with whatever you have going on. And in fact, I love when I work with somebody and they're like, I don't know if it's the right time because I got a business trip coming up. And I'm like, perfect. We want to navigate that together. Oh, you have a conference? Perfect. Oh, like, we need those things, because that's life and they're not going to go anywhere. So we have to figure out, how do we become the guy who can navigate that and make good choices? Yeah,
that's powerful. I love that, Luke, because I think that's applicable, like, kind of across the board.
Like, how easy would it be for that guy to be like, now's not the right time. I got it. I'm about to have a newborn baby. Like, really understandable.
Right. Exactly. Well, which would be right.
Yeah. But now it made that whole process easier. So, which is really cool.
That's cool. And made his wife happier, which is like way important.
Yeah.
There's a key to life. Coming up on 40 years, and the key of life is keep that person happy.
Yeah. There you go.
Keep them happy. I have a ritual every Saturday. I put my key in the front door and turn it. And if it's good, I'm okay.
Okay.
As long as I can get back in the house, we're good. I got another week. I'm good to go. So it's interesting you say that, because I think one of the things that's important for the listeners that are listening to the podcast, this is applicable as a leader. If you we'll put up a couple of silos here and step away from a conversation around fitness. But I love the one of the concepts I really like that you talk about, Luke, that you've leaned in on a lot, is the minimum standard. This is the standard.
Yep.
And this is, you got to do this. This is it. And no matter what's going on in and around you, you got to do that. And as a leader, this is a component of that. When I talk to leaders about their businesses and the things that they're doing, I explore with them. Tell me about your relationship. Tell me about your marriage. Tell me about your kids. Tell me about all of these things, because I can't help you be this unless I understand that.
Yeah, like, it's got to exist in that container. That's your life.
Yeah,
you're not going to set that aside,
right? Like, and then we do similar things. I have some minimum standards that I work with in leadership as well. Here are things you got to do. You got to do these things every day.
Yep. And real quick, one thing on that note is, then we raise the standards, right? Like, we start with the minimum and we can raise them. But at some point we find the optimal land, and particularly in the health and fitness, like I said, you probably don't need to strength train 7 days. That's probably suboptimal at that point. So
Yeah, I think that's critically important. The minimum is just where you get, which just is where we're starting. You're going to
Yep.
do this. You're going to actually go do more. Remember, I call
Yeah.
them stretch goals.
Yeah.
That's that.
Same.
You're going to reach here. Then I want to see you. I want to see that muscle, this muscle stretch one
Yep.
more time. Let's
Yep.
get that one.
And once you realize you have an expanded capacity, it's not this massive thing to do, which is cool.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? It's
Yeah.
it's funny. It reminds me of training for a marathon. It kind of
Yeah. So again, I'm not a huge advocate of like running for most people, but again, what is unique in about a marathon specifically? It's like there are these like key, like, okay, we got to get mile 6. Like we're gonna have to get to mile 8. We're gonna have to like all the way up to 26.2. Like you're gonna have to get there.
Yeah, and suddenly mile 6 doesn't feel that bad after you've been doing mile 10 for a while.
Exactly.
Mile 6 is like, oh, this is. I could eat a chili dog and run this mile. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Although I did try that once, I would recommend don't do that.
Probably not your best inner marathon snack.
Didn't go well. So just anyway, we'll leave that for the listeners. Don't eat chili dogs and then go do workout for your marathon. But kind of back to what we're talking about from a health perspective, and in particularly working with people. One of the concepts that I really like is that you're leaning into is the fact that as you're doing this and you're building these minimum standards, you're building these standards for yourself that you can't miss. Is you're coaching on health, fitness, you're coaching on becoming your best on that side, but you're also helping them become their own self leaders.
Yes.
Because those standards kind of transcend to it. I love the fact that it went over to his wife too.
Yeah. And when I see, I made a post recently, like to me, there's just nothing more incongruent when I see a speaker who's championing leadership and again, particularly like around business and like optimization and like all of this, outward expression. And it's like, but you don't have mastery of your physical self. Like there's an incongruence there. It's not to say you need to be on stage looking like a fitness model. Of course not. But like to discount that your health is impacting you is to just be ignorant of reality. Like we know how these health markers and what they're going to do. So it's like you almost have a responsibility. And again, there's an incongruency there if you're championing leadership, but you're not going to take care of the vessel that's leading you through life.
Yeah. And it does become more important. You said something earlier that stuck in the back of my head too, Luke, which was, since I'm 72, I have the thing in the back of my mind all the time about I will not have other people picking me up off the floor. I will be able to get my own ass up off the floor. That's so if it means I've got to do burpees, then I'll do some burpees.
Yeah. And, obviously as you age, those standards are going to change. And like, that's a great, marker of like, hey, like, do you want to be able to play with your grandkids? And like, what is that going to look like? Are you going to be playing tackle football with them? Probably not. But like, you want to be able to throw the ball around with them, chase after them a bit. Like, that's your future. Either you get to do that or you don't. And that's going to be up to you based on the inputs that you give it earlier in your life.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think of my young 4-year-old granddaughter who loves it when I can catch her. So, and she takes it and she's running full bore. So yeah, they'll think those things are very important. So let's talk I want to talk a little bit about your business.
Sure.
And the things that you're doing. And, we were kind of, pre-go on the podcast, kind of talking about the fact that, when we're coaching, we're not for everybody, and not everybody is for us. So the kind of tell me a little bit about, the kind of clients that you coach, a little about your model, kind of how that works, because I would encourage listeners, and I'll do this again at the end. I would encourage you, reach out to Luke, listen to what we're talking about here and reach out to Luke. This is really important stuff to take care of yourself, men and women. Even though it says Fit Men Project, men and women. So,
I'll have a conversation and with anybody. If I can move them forward, great. Yeah. If they work with me, great. But so typically I'm working with 30 to 50-year-old businessmen, entrepreneurs, again, guys that typically don't feel they have the time, are starting to feel the effects of kind of neglecting their health, typically as they've chased wealth. many of my clients have kids. That tends to be a big eye opener for them, recognizing like, hey, they need to keep up with them. Having
Yes.
I've got one had one guy who's got three businesses, 4 kids under 8, and I'm like, yeah, you're not busy.
Wow. Yeah.
And so typically I do all my coaching in 4-month blocks. And I tell everybody I have a terrible business model because my plan and my goal is for you to fire me. And
Awesome.
Does that happen in 4 months? I have some people that will work with me longer, but the
Sure.
end goal when we work together, ultimately it's let's figure out how to set up systems, self-accountability, step into that growth piece to where you exit and you feel, wow, I can absolutely tackle this on my own. Like that is the end goal that I'm after. So again, this isn't some, hey, let's do this challenge program where you have me to drag you through this hard thing that you're going to do. We're going to get you in shape.
Yeah.
So if you want to go do a hard thing, you can, but we're going to get you in shape in a way that actually feels easy to stay in shape. We're going to make this a lifelong system.
Yeah. That's I think that's exciting. Are your clients, knowing the kind of a little bit about your business, you're interacting with them through the app? Are you interacting with them face to face? There's models, right? One-to-one,
so Zoom calls. So we're on Zoom. So we have accountability calls where we actually like make tangible adjustments to the programs, to the KPIs, all those different levers that we need to install. And then they're gonna have 24/7 access to me through the app. So like we're highly, highly connected while still having, again, what I call the growth gap, where like they have to physically go execute on the workout.
Good.
All that data, we track everything. So all that data comes through me. So I'm obviously guiding it and making adjustments along the way. There's an educational component. Again, I don't like try to tell people, hey, you're going to do a little bit of mindset work, but you are. We're going to do, I have some nutritional modules that is going to make you feel like you're in school for 25 minutes, but it's going to unlock freedom around food because you're going to have a foundational understanding of this stuff. So that all exists through the app. And again, with the idea at the end of this, you're going to have an education on this to where you understand how to strength train. You're going to understand nutrition. We're going to build out your personal EOS. This is your eating, your personal eating system, like your eating operating system. How do you navigate food? We can pull labs if we need to for the right person, if that's required. But yeah, it's all going to be data driven. We're going to adjust based off of the data. And again, it's all going to be personalized to where your starting point is, where the goal is. And I do tell guys this too. You may not hit your end goal with me. That's not the point. The point is, do you feel you have the confidence that you're absolutely going to hit it and maintain it?
Yeah.
There's no point in me trying to like crash diet somebody and create a future problem. I have no desire to play part of that problem that exists in the fitness community, which it's rancid with. So there's no big crash diet. Not doing any of that, not participating.
Yeah. And not to be redundant, but that's partly why at the beginning I hung that moniker of trusted on you. Because I think there is a general propensity in the fitness industry where, first of all, in the fitness industry in and unto itself is a lot of churn and burn.
Sure.
Just to be direct, right? I'm going to do things with you, and either the coach individual who calls himself a coach is going to go, or I'm going to push you real hard. We're going to get through, and you're going to burn out. You're going to go. This is too hard, and I'm out.
Yep. Yeah.
And it is different. It's in a lot of ways very similar with what I do with coaches around mindset. My goal is I really don't want you to need me forever. I don't want that. I want you to be able to go fish for yourself.
Yeah.
But let's instill some systems into your head and into your business that give you the ability to go do this. And call me some other time when things are really hard or you got a special need.
Yeah. I have the red flag, rule. You can, while we have scheduled coaching calls, but it's like, pull the red flag, man. I'll hop on a call, hop on a FaceTime if I need to, whatever. Like I'm going to get you there.
I love that.
Yeah. And then, when I do exit a program with guys, we basically have we have a pretty long and lengthy exit call to where, again, if they're not quite at the end goal, we kind of map out what it's going to look like to continue on your own. We're going to identify what are the accountability systems they need to install on their own. And then we exit the call with, if at any point, at any time you think, oh, this is going off the rails, the agreement is you reach out, and obviously we jump back into coaching. But I do provide, I'm going to give you space to execute on your own, and then you will hear from me. And I love it. I have guys that like I follow up with from 2 years ago, and it's like, they're like, still rocking. Yep. And it's like, perfect. That's what we want. I want this to not be, again, we started this conversation with health and fitness should be foundational. And when you understand that, you understand you don't have to do all this crazy stuff to get there. Once you get healthy and fit, guess what? Then you can go do all the crazy stuff. Like I love to do jujitsu. I've done some pretty gnarly hikes. I've leaned into some extreme things, and it's like, I didn't do that to get fit. You get fit to do that. You don't take your car on an off-road race to tune it up. You tune it up so you can go do the race, you know?
Yeah. Good analogy. It's been fun when I see friends flip that around.
So crazy. I call it
doesn't go well.
I call it building in an excuse to quit. You're going to go do a diet that is so extreme and some workout thing that is so extreme that no one can blame or judge you for quitting.
Yeah, that's so true, right? Oh my God.
Instead, build it in a way where you would be embarrassed if you stopped.
Right. Yeah. Have those standards, build standards that continually improve, and hold yourself accountable.
Yep.
Be accountable into those standards. Know that when you miss, not to go back kind of through things that you've said. So for the leaders, for those that are listening to the podcast and listening in particularly to this episode, I want to really kind of remind us, when we're talking about a lot of these principles, this is a big tip of the hat to you, Luke. One of the challenges is helping people develop self skills, not my skills, their skills, right? Because they don't need to develop my skills. They would be disappointed if they develop my skills. Develop your own ding dang skills that will help them be better.
Yep.
To take care of themselves, their families, those people around them, because we're accountable to these people.
Yep. I love that.
Not just to ourselves. So develop those skills. Don't worry about what I say and how I live. You go live your life. You do the best. So. And
if I can just tack one thing on here at the end is, as somebody's listening to this and they're still pondering, like, all right, can I do this? Should I, like, again, whether it's working with somebody like me or somebody else or on your own, however, right? Like, should I tackle this health and fitness mountain? And you're stewing in your mind about it, and you're thinking about the work and the time and the food and all of these things. What you can't test drive, unfortunately, in this arena is the results. And the results are going to be so far beyond what you think. There's a reason that every person that you know who gets in shape becomes annoying about it. They're starting to post their workouts and they're taking photos of their good meals they're making. And it's because they feel incredible.
Yeah.
And if you could bottle that feeling, I'd be a billionaire. And so you're going to have to take a leap of faith that on the other side of this action, again, strategic action that you absolutely can do, there's a radical outcome that's going to impact your life in ways that you don't realize yet.
I'm going to give it a little air so that sinks in. I'll let people sink in on that without jumping like right on top of what you just said. Yeah. And thank you for that. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too, man. This is fun.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. Look, so a couple of things for those listening to the podcast and who find it on all of the millions of podcast platforms that it's sitting out on today. In the show notes will be all of the information that you need to have to reach out to Luke, to come in and understand the Fitmen project, to understand a little more about the Lean Body Method, to get to know him a little bit more and reach out to him. And two things I would recommend. The very first thing is take care of yourself. Take time to go research and work with someone who's trusted, who understands it, who's invested time to develop a method to help you create standards and teach you lessons that transcend into leadership. Because these things teach you habits that you have to carry forward in leadership as well. And they will change your life in multiple dimensions. So I will recommend that people come find you, Luke, and it'll all be in there.
Awesome. Well, I welcome any conversations. And again, if I can point somebody in the right direction, I'm always happy to.
Cool. Good. And then 3 things I always end every podcast with. The last thing is I'm going to restate some gratitude, dude. Thank you for being here. And thank you for a great conversation. I shared with you pre-go on the podcast. My mission is to empower 1 million leaders. Empowering leaders is way beyond just teaching them how to manage stuff and all the other components that go into a typical leadership conversation. We are responsible for this machine that we live in.
Yep.
And it makes us better and makes us better leaders. So you could have been doing many things, but so thanks for hanging out, buddy.
Yeah, man.
I'm grateful. For those of you listening to the podcast today, 2 things. Very first thing is give the podcast a know, like, share, put a comment in. Has nothing to do with vanity numbers. Matter of fact, I don't look at the numbers for the podcast. I look at a different result. But when you do those things, it makes the podcast, because of the way technology works, it makes the podcast visible so other people can find the podcast. And if you've listened to the podcast and you know someone who could learn from this podcast, share this podcast with 2 people. Help them be better leaders, help them take better care of themselves, which in turn helps them take better care of their families, their kids, their businesses, their employees, and their employees' kids, all of the other things that come along with that. So help us and help me extend that mission of empowering 1 million leaders. On that note, I'll just say thanks again, Luke, and we may have opportunities to talk a little bit more about other things in the future. So
yeah, man, really appreciate the time. This was a lot of fun.
All right, that's it.
Boom.
The next interview show podcast. Thanks for being here with us today. Appreciate it.